We'll say before we start the interview, say I loved you in Miss Littlewood back in the day.
Oh,
What a great
that was
show.
a great show. I was very lucky to be part of that.
And obviously, Sunny Afternoon, I've seen, I don't know how many times I've seen it, to be fair. Four or five, maybe more.
Wow.
Okay.
Um, it was nice because she was such a dynamic woman, a game changer, a theatre, changer at a time when you can be a woman in the theatre, and you definitely can be running a theatre as a woman, and bringing all the different kind of styles of acting to Britain. She is incredible. So it was like kind of doing a show about everything you want to know about theatre if you're an actor.
Yeah, it was so much fun. But then, if I can then get you to start this little chat, introducing yourself and tell me a little bit about Sunny Afternoon and obviously the role of Grenville that you play, please.
Hi, I'm Tam Williams. I'm currently on a UK-wide tour of a musical about the Kinks called Sunny Afternoon, which Joe Pennell wrote, and Ray Davies, obviously writer of all the music of the Kinks, and Ed Hall, who directed it, who I've worked with a lot in Propeller, which is a Shakespeare company. It is everything wondrous about the Kinks, everything that could go wrong with a band, and sublime music. So it's very funny, it's moving, the music is, as I said, sublime. And yeah, I play their manager, who is a well-to-do sort of upper class type of person, and was very integral to the starting of the band, and was very close to the band for as long as he was alive, actually. I got to know him. It was lovely. Yes, and we're on tour until May, and it's a joy to do, and audiences seem to like it.
And obviously, as you say, Grenville has quite an impact on the band's journey. How is that kind of getting to be that kind of character?
Ooh. Well, what's lovely, I think not then, now is that class has kind of slightly gone out the window, which is a good thing because it divides us in this small island. But then it was really marked. So a lot of these wealthy kind of upper class young city gents, youngish, sorry,
Yeah.
were looking for, on the wave of the music explosion of rock and roll, they were looking at other ways to be making money other than going into the city and doing 9 to 5 jobs, which was boring. And I think a lot of them, these managers happened to be stockbrokers and money people who were well-to-do. And I think, initially working class bands like The Who, the Kinks, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles saw these managers as a kind of way into business because they seemed to know what they were talking about. Plus they had nice accents. It was all about that. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
And they knew they could get them into rooms purely by their voice and who they knew. And it's sad but it's sort of true. But what's nice about this relationship between the managers, Robert Wace and Grenville Collins, and the band initially, is they kind of were so extreme. There's the Davis family, sort of nearly in poverty, living in a 2-bedroom flat in Muswell Hill. And these guys living on big country houses with Jaguars and, all the stuff, they kind of were so alien to each other that they were attracted to each other because it's like, wow, you're so exotic, and they had this kind of link, which was just fascination. Plus, they didn't know anything about music, Grenville and Robert, not really. And they were playing society balls, and Grenville was getting gigs for his mate, Robert, who was the lead singer, a crooner, with these guys as backing singers, which is hilarious. But Grenville was a really nice guy. He came and saw the show in Hampstead when we first did it. He wrote me a lovely letter in beautiful italics, exactly how he might sound. And then he came and saw the show again when we were in the West End at Harold Pinter, and we sort of spent the night together, and he was just delightful, a really warm, lovely guy, and stayed friends with Dave Davis until he died. So he died last March, Grenville, but always a very warm and light person.
And it's kind of, as you say, that journey, they kind of have that first scene where they kind of have the shock when the Kinks kind of take over that concert, and then they're in kind of that sound comes to life. Must be such a thrill kind of to get that journey to weave through the show.
Yeah, it's actually always quite a responsibility to start the show. Obviously, the music starts the show, and I love working with Joe Richardson, who plays Robert Wace. He's a wonderful actor and a really good singer too. And yeah, having been through various different stages of the play, how we got it to that scene. It was a few scenes to begin with, and obviously the play's quite long, so we had to kind of cut it down.
Yeah.
So you get an idea, of them, their relationship with the band, and kind of the things they call them, and the kind of the divide, and then the eureka moment of this character, Grenville, I guess, going, oh my God, that's good. And they liked it. We've got to do this. So making decisions, and it sort of sets up the kind of ride. It's first halves of plays are always very difficult, the setup, and the second half is a very different ball game. The second half of the play really moves, but the first half you have to kind of crank it up, and so you hear these echoes of you really got me all the way through, into the first 25 minutes, and then eventually they play You Really Got Me, and the audience are kind of ready for it by the time it comes along. But yeah, it's a joy to do it.
And you've just hinted on there, you were part of the original production back in 2014, then obviously transferred into the West End. How is that kind of journey for you now, coming back to it almost kind of 12 years later?
Yeah, Mark, that's a good question. And actually, I've got 4 kids, a dog, and an NHS doctor as a wife. So it's difficult because I haven't toured for a while. I've been very lucky doing shows either in Stratford or in town, and doing some filming here and there around Europe. So I knew it can be difficult. This business is always difficult. It's never plain sailing. So you can't be conceited. So when Ed, who I really love working with, said last summer, how do you fancy doing this again? And I just thought about it a little bit. And Ben Kaplan, who was also in the original cast, we kind of had a conversation. We're like, well, it is really fun, and audiences really do like it, and we think it's good, and we're playing lots of beautiful theatres. It's a show that if you say to your neighbour, I'm doing this show about the Kinks, they won't, it's not like saying to them, I'm doing The Tempest, which I have just done.
Yeah.
It's hard to get them out to see that. But if you say you're doing this, you can get, like the guys I play tennis with, guys I play football with, they all came along and see it because they want to come and see something raucous, a bit anarchic and loud and sort of funny, moving, can be show. So it's a kind of like, that's been a nice thing. And my kids, my 13-year-old, who was 1 when he first saw it, can you believe it? He was really excited. So my kids wanted me to do it again. So it was kind of, it was a good sell. Ed is a very good politician. He's very good at making you want to do something.
Well, I'm for one glad you're back, because like I say, I'm looking forward to kind of seeing it again. But then, as you touched on a little bit there, kind of getting to know Grenville, what's it like when you are playing someone that is real, has existed, someone you've got to know, as opposed to playing like a fictional character?
Well, you talked about Miss Littlewood there. I mean, obviously I'm going to talk about Sunday Afternoon, but I played Murray Melvin, who is an actor I really, really regarded highly. He died a few years ago. I got to know him. He came in and rehearsed with us. And you see these people, and I'm a big fan of Michael Sheen and, Steve Coogan, who play characters brilliantly, realistically well, like Tony Blair, with Michael Sheen, etc. So I think not to mimic and just have a quality in you that you could maybe, like a kind of generosity of spirit, which is both those people, Grenville, and enthusiasm, almost like a sort of puppy dog, and that kind of enthusiasm without wanting to hurt anyone. And Murray had that too, in a way, a lovely, gentle, delicate, beautiful, bird-like quality of just being there and loyal and really good. So it's quite nice playing those types of... I have played some nasty people too, but playing nice, generous people is a lovely thing to fill in yourself, character-wise. So yeah, a smile in yourself,
Yeah. And then why do you think the Kinks story particularly stays relevant to a 2026 audience?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. And I think, because there's not really, although let's say Oasis, who I did go and see at Wembley last year, and it was wonderful. You know, the infighting of the Knopfler brothers, the Everly brothers, well, the Kinks sort of are there, obviously, with them infighting, and the Gallagher brothers. You know, it's kind of documented. So I think no one wants to hear about a nice, lovely band that's stuck together, possibly like Coldplay, who are a great band, but there's not a story that people can kind of, like a dirty story that people can get hold of there, unless there's something I don't know about there.
Yeah.
But with the Kinks, you know, it was volatile, it was dangerous, and it produced great stuff, because a band isn't just about a bass, a lead guitar, rhythm guitar, and a drum. It's about how those people react off each other. Red Hot Chili Peppers, a band I love, you know, they fire off each other because they are individuals and they bring this kind of extraordinary work together. And I think the Gallagher, you know, the Gallaghers, the Davis brothers and Mick Avery and Pete Quaife, they had this energy and kind of mixture of characters which came out in the music. And so Ray never sounds the same on his records. He's always different. He's like an actor. I mean, he really is. And I did get to know him, and he's when he was working with us, and he's very interested in the trombone, which is something I played anyway before I started this. So he's like, oh, I love the brass, and he likes football. I'm not an Arsenal fan, he is. So we talk football and brass most of the time, but I love that in every record of his, he sounds different and he brings a story, and I think that's why it lends itself to a musical, because it's stories, and he tells stories brilliantly about characters, people. He's a master of it.
And obviously you are getting to be part of that legacy where you are carrying the music on to next generation. Like for me, I didn't know the Kinks. I'll hand up. I didn't know them before I saw the show. That must be so thrilling to get to pass that on as well.
I think it is. It's the tracks that people don't know, and the back catalogue is massive. So if there's songs there's songs that should be in this musical that just there's not room for them. Otherwise, it would be 6-10 hours long.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. You're right. There's some really lovely other songs that aren't so well known that he writes with a sort of fragility, which was not. You know, he was a lead singer that didn't really want to be a lead singer. So you've got to, you know, all those alpha males that were there wanting to be the main man. He's kind of introspective, and so it's a very strange. Like David Bowie, you know, obviously he's a legend, one of my favorite singers. But he also had that kind of brilliant. It was always changing, metamorphosing into something else, and I think they influenced each other. They liked each other very much. I think they respected each other. But Ray has that, and so it is lovely to bring that to another generation. And there are a lot of people coming to see it of a certain age, I must say. But when they bring their grandchildren or their children, especially when we were at Hampstead 10 years ago, 12 years ago, at the Harold Pinter, it was new, and people go, oh my God, this is, I didn't realise they wrote so much great other stuff. So
Obviously, it is all played live there for an audience as well, which is, again, so electric.
I mean, Mark, it's very nice you say that too, because I would be remiss if I didn't mention the incredible, talented people that are doing this. So even when we did it first time, they're actors that can, you know, they're actors that play instruments, guitars, drums, trombones and stuff. But so they weren't necessarily your normal musical theatre type people. On this, you know, with a big tour and having to cover, I mean, the whole team of people that play all the parts, and if people can't go on, we've got covers who are completely unbelievable. There's an actor in this cast called Christian Jacobs, who is Swedish, and he covers Pete, Ray, Grenville and Robert, and he's been on for all four parts. So that's not just the words, the characters, it's the music and the harmonies and the dancing. I mean, it's extraordinary, and I don't know how he does it. It makes me quite sweaty just thinking about him doing it. So we have an incredibly brilliant, talented company of actors doing this, and technical crews. So it is all played live, and that is that it's like a gig. So we're playing Alexandra Palace at the moment, and it shakes like a gig. it is that gig experience and the plays there as well. So it's kind of, you get two for one, but it's not possible without this company. And Elliot Ware, who did all the music for all the transpositions and arrangements. I mean, extraordinary man. He's brilliant.
I must say, go back to Harold Pinter. I'd never heard like a sound like it, because that staging, that platform in the middle, and I kind of sat near the front. It was such a, like I say, electric. I mean, it's so loud and just thrilling to hear that kind of music so live.
Yeah, Mark, that gangway we miss a bit on tour because it did give that sort of a like link, like if you like plug into the audience, and it was a small, it's not a massive theatre, so it's kind of like felt intimate. And there was drinks. I don't know if you remember, there were drinks being served, so people got more and more drunk. And there were tables there, so it felt properly dangerous. And I think that was always the idea, was to make it feel a bit dirty and a bit giggy. So we had, all my heroes and our heroes came to see it. So Paul Weller came a few times, Van Morrison, the Gallaghers, not together, some of Fleetwood Mac, and some of Queen, and Mark Ronson. I mean, lots and lots of people that I was just literally, I cannot believe, singing these songs. And there's Paul Weller. And obviously Ray was there a lot. And he was generous. And we recorded the album in his studios. I mean, that alone was like singing his songs to him, and him like recording it was kind of surreal. And he makes a nice mention on the album, just saying, these aren't professional musicians playing these. These are actors who've learnt to play the instruments and playing my music. So he was generous in that way.
And then what's your kind of preparation mentally and physically, say like now, for the hours before you've got a show tonight? How do you prepare yourself for it?
Right. So I went for a walk on Wimbledon Common just now, and then I've been busy. So we've done quite a lot of shows there. We did 8 shows, did a show on Sunday, and then we had Monday off, and then we had 2 shows yesterday. And it's a bit of a trek for me in South London going up there. So today I'm going to make the kids' supper, my family, and then I'm probably going to have a rest after lunch, just because you need to, it does require, I'm a little bit older now.
Yeah.
I think Peter Bowles is an actor I work with. He played my father in The Rivals at the Haymarket. And we did that for about 8 months, that play. And he used to say, doing a show is like having a dog in the corner of the room waiting to be walked all day. Like, you have to walk, the dog's got to be walked. So it is there, and you have to kind of give that energy. You have to save energy, eat for the show. Everything is about the show, because the audience have spent 60 quid or 100 quid to see a good show. So your job is to deliver a good show and be ready for it. And it's, there are a lot of shows we do, but this is the actor's kind of mantra, really, is just being ready. So you have to rest your voice, and you have to rest physically, because it is demanding, but also joyous.
And for you, going back, what was the kind of first piece of theatre that had that impact on your life that you thought, oh, maybe that's for me?
Well, Mark, you've opened up a can of worms, because born into the theatre. I was on stage when I was months old. My mum was playing Wendy with Dorothy Tewton as Peter Pan up in Liverpool. So I went on in a papoose as one of the Lost Boys. One of the Indian tribe, their baby. Anyway, so I've spent all my holidays in the theatre. I've spent school holidays all around the country with my dad or my mum. So theatre's always felt like home, and especially backstage, being in dressing rooms and in and out, front of house, watching shows. What would you rather have, kids? My dad would say at Chichester, for example, you've got a babysitter for tonight, or do you want to come and watch As You Like It again with me and your stepmother? And we go, well, that's a no-brainer. So we'd be there in our pajamas and dressing gowns watching Rosalind, Patricia Hodges' Rosalind, my dad as Oliver, and Lucy Fleming, my stepmom, as Celia. And we'd watch plays 12, 15 times, because we'd rather do that than be at home with a babysitter. So theatre's kind of... Also, my aunt was an actress called Kate O'Mara, who was in Dynasty, and she was my mum's sister, and she spent all her money from Dynasty, which she did for a few years. She was very glamorous. She had a passion for Shakespeare, which I think she's given me, because I adore it. I adore playing Shakespeare. And she just put all her money into a theatre company, the British Actors Theatre Company, and put on shows, toured them around the country with really good actors. And that was her passion. So I kind of do have a bit of that in my DNA. And I'm currently putting on a show which has just been on the Queen Mary to New York on the Cunard, a 1 hour Noel Coward. It's called Still Life. It's the play of the film Brief Encounter, which said stepmother Lucy Fleming's mother, Celia Johnson, was Laura Jesson in that film. So there's kind of lots of stuff that keeps coming back in different ways. But yeah, theatre's everything to me.
And what keeps you kind of in that then? What kind of keeps you, like you say, come back Sunday afternoon? What kind of keeps you wanting to perform it?
Well, Sunday afternoon is an anomaly because I did see, when I did it for a year at the Pinter and at Hampstead, it seemed to a lot of different types of people really enjoyed it. And if they didn't know the music, then they got to love the music. And if they didn't know it was a play with music, it's kind of weird. It's not a musical, and I've been brought up on musicals. It kind of is different. It's in its own bubble. And yes, there are lots of jukebox musicals, obviously, but I think it's just different because it's a bit spiky and anarchic and dangerous. And it has that energy about it, which is just, there aren't many shows like that. And I have seen a lot of musicals, but so that's what's brought me back to it, is that I think it still has, there's still room for it. And most people I meet who've come out having watched it have had a good time. And I think at this moment in time, with stuff as it is, there's a lot of not very nice stuff around. It's good to give people a bit of a window out of it for a moment and just remember the good old crazy 60s where there was a lot of things into action sonically, and the world was changing in a good way then. And it's nice to go back there for a few hours each night with the audience.
You've kind of just touched on it, really. My final question: what would you hope someone takes away from Sunday afternoon?
Oh, that's nice. I mean, you want to give credit to Ray. He's been knighted for his music, and he's, I think, always they're kind of fighting with themselves, these artists. They're great people. They're kind of not valued. They feel they're not valued. But I hope people go away and think, I've got to go and listen to the whole of Village Green, that album, a lot more Kinks music, and see the influence they've had on other bands, which they certainly have, like Blur, like Oasis, like Paul Weller, Star Council, and Paul Weller's bands. You can see that they have influenced everyone. But I hope people maybe just go back and go, God, that was a different time, and maybe we can live a bit more like that nowadays. But, it's so alien now with phones, with the world as it is. It's like doing a period piece in a way, because it's so, I don't know. But it is romantic. I mean, that romantic part of me, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think, Grenville says at the end, we're just a couple of old Tories having the time of our lives. We built a rocket and flew it to the moon. It feels like they did. They built a rocket and flew it to the moon. And it was always bound to come down in the end. But the ride is about the ride. And I think you've been present and just enjoy the ride. Maybe that's what it is.
Well, Tam, thank you so much. This leads me to say the tour runs until 30th of May.